Alright, sorry, the old PC crashed. That was very, very unfortunate. Wow, they just won't let up with the band. Like, come on, man. Like, no shot. Have I played 22, 25? That's 52 rounds right there. 57. I've played well over 100 rounds. I think that's gonna be it for Valo. Don't care. Let's watch some old YouTubes. Oh shit, my cam. Okay, there we go.
I have a challenge for all of you. Go to every computer in your house, your mom's, your dad's, your sister, your brother's computer, and install Honey. Wait, Mom, before you check out, do you have Honey installed?
What's Honey?
Oh, no. It's a free browser add-on that automatically applies coupon codes when you check.
There's been a lot of horrible stuff happening over the last week or so in particular. Even if you're not someone that's like jacked into the mainframe, hyper-focused on cyberspace news updates or anything like
What's
that.
up, Big Open,
you've
Aiden,
probably
Alien,
still seen a lot of
Helen?
the stinky stuff that's been going on because it's been really bad. So I wanted this video to try and just be uplifting, some positive news here. Spray a little bit of Febreze, put some deodorant on
Hey,
to
what's
mask
up,
the odor for a bit,
Sonya?
and just give you something to smile about. And that mission failed almost instantly. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but I couldn't take that first step. I went looking for positive news stories, and all I found was more agony and despair, doom and gloom and death. It's like smiling is illegal right now. Every single day there's something
Alright, Charlie, get to the point, my guy. You're 45 seconds
fucking
in.
horrible happening. It's baffling how common the worst things imaginable are happening on a daily basis. But I was able to unearth two very good, wholesome stories, and it was like finding the Infinity Stones. This was difficult. I felt like Indiana Jones having to go exploring and finding these treasures, but there are two very wholesome stories that have me grinning from ear to ear that I'd like to share with you today. The first story is very interesting because it involves someone that I've talked about before on the channel. In fact, the two of us used to have some beef beef so raw that you wouldn't see him eating it during one of his mukbangs. I'm talking about Nikocado Avocado. Over a year ago, the two of us were feuding, going back and forth on the playground, having a bit of a tiff. And now I've recently learned that Nikocado...
Do not care. Oh. Let's see the new controversy of the weekend. Haven't watched it yet. Let's react to Mr. Beast. All
La
right.
mejor manera de comenzar el día es en familia, con un buen desayuno de Jimmy Dean.
This is the first out of 1,000 deaf people that we're gonna help hear again. And she hasn't heard her mother's voice in 4 years. Can you hear?
I love you.
Jimmy, you monster!
Sudi. And even entire families hear their loved ones again. But they are only a few of the
How
1,000 people
dare
that we're
you.
gonna help hear again today. We got our hands on over $3 million of cutting-edge hearing technology that, unlike old hearing aids, analyzes people's specific hearing needs, allowing them to hear again without causing any damage.
Can you hear me talking now?
Yes.
Oh my God. Wait, he can hear me.
I'm gonna cry.
You just saved my dad's life.
And our 10th person was Aisha.
I used to watch him like a lot. Like
Used to?
No, stop.
What happened?
No, think about it.
Ha! Unsubscribe!
Go ahead, do a test.
Mommy.
She can't hear you yet, but she will in 3, 2, 1.
I can hear my baby girl.
I can hear my voice in my left ear now. That's
See, and people give him shit for this because he filmed it.
Did you hear that?
I can.
At this point, we
But the
helped
thing
over
is,
40
if he
people
never-
hear again. But on top of that, we wanted to give them a little surprise.
Okay. Taking the glasses off for the hot takes. Right here, right now. So first off, I agree with Hassan Piker. This video angers me to no end. And not that it angers me for what Mr. Beast did. I am fully 100% supportive. Keep doing what you do, man. It angers me that we have privatized healthcare in this country and that shit like vision and hearing are not human rights when multi-billion-dollar... Hey, what's up, A9? Sorry, I'm ranting on a hot take about Mr. Beast video. When multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies and shit have paywalled basic human necessities for life like hearing and vision. They have paywalled your five senses. Thank you for the space fuel, A9. Like, they have paywalled your five senses. Like, what next? You're gonna have to pay $100 a month to be able to taste food? Or how about, you know, smell the fucking roses? You're gonna have to pay for that eventually? Like, it just blows my fucking mind. God, it does anger me. And then when Mr. Beast is out here doing helping people, he gets shit for it. But like, what they don't get is he would never have the money or opportunity if he didn't film it. But he is taking billions of dollars. Hey, what's up, Mini-Man? Mini-Man. He's taking billions of dollars from YouTube and just giving it to people. He's taking ad revenue money from YouTube and just giving it away. Letting people hear and see. He's taking money from corporate Google billionaire big tech and giving it back to people. And like, I don't see the problem with that, even if he filmed it. I'm sure if any one of these 1,000 people was like, yo, I don't want to be on cam, my guy. Is it cool? Can I still have the... He's probably still give them the fucking operation. It's not like they're showing all 1,000 people he fucking did.
$10,000. It's yours.
He just gave that man 10 fucking grand.
I also want to give you $10,000 to make this day a little bit better.
10 grand.
Yeah, just don't have a heart attack, please.
Like, he not only changed their life once, but just changed it again. 10 grand. That's a new car for her. That's, you know, down payment on a fucking house. That's, you know, paying off the mortgage on your house. Like, paying off your car note.
Which is better, hearing or the 10 grand?
The hearing, because I can hear my baby.
Well,
Do you
yeah.
watch the channel?
But
Can you guys close your eyes and can I borrow you for 1 second?
Can you tell them you guys just won $10,000?
Okay, open your eyes.
You won $10,000.
Oh my God. I'll get home and have
using the little girl to do his dirty work. I love it, Mr. Beast.
Turn around and look at the camera and you just go, subscribe.
Subscribe.
There you go.
Aw.
Ivy's the next big YouTuber. Why don't we give you $10,000 as well? Here you go.
He did use a new editing style.
That's awesome.
Not only did we want to help you here, we also wanted to give you $10,000 on top of it.
I'm rich.
What are you going to spend the money on?
Jelly.
You have 12 grandkids?
She just want Jello.
In here is $12,000. No way. So now you can give out grand to each of your grandkids. You can just tell me my jokes are dumb. Here you go.
You can just tell me my jokes are
Is this something
dumb.
you want to buy?
The things I want to buy.
Well, now you can. When we were talking earlier, they mentioned you guys enjoyed jet ski.
Is there anything you want that you don't want to spend the money on?
Jet ski for him. His jet ski broke down. Who are you?
Mr. Reese.
Can I hug you?
Wait, did you just realize who I am?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, what?
Yeah, I'm the one who helped you here. Well, now that
I'm the guy that
Okay,
fucking gave
surprise
you
you guys with
the
something?
gift of hearing.
Okay, I went out and I bought a brand new jet ski for you guys.
I was going to sell my wife to try to get with.
Oh, really? I got you.
Thank you so much.
And while we were busy helping more people, I sent Nolan to give a gift to one of our youngest patients.
I've got some custom pink hearing aids for you.
Look at that.
Listen, what do you say we go get some more toys? We're just gonna go to the toy aisle and you just go crazy, alright? It's Jimmy's money.
I'm taking all his money.
Go, girl.
Yes.
Oh, what's that?
You like this sound?
You need more. Open. This is my best day ever. Thank you, Mr. Beast.
This is the darndest thing
See?
I've ever heard of.
Yes, this man is a cloud chasing goblin, making small children and old people here and fucking buying them toys and giving them thousands of dollars. You fucking monster.
He hears very well.
To test your new hearing, we got you tickets to the upcoming championship basketball game for you and your whole family to go to.
Just got him finals
What better way
tickets.
to break in your new hearing than going to a Taylor Swift concert? Then experience it with your new
Bro,
hearing.
now that was probably harder to get than the finals tickets.
Seats we've ever had for a basketball game.
But we didn't want to only help people in the United States. Which is why we flew to Mexico
Okay.
to help 200 deaf people. Come on. Leopardo and Salmai have always wanted to hear their daughter's voice, but are unable to afford hearing technology. However, today,
Both
that's
of them.
about to change.
Been saying repeatedly over sign language, they're so excited to hear us say mama and papa for the first time. They're flicking them on. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Papa? Papa?
Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Thank you for doing this for me. Thank you.
You should be able to hear now.
What's it like? Aww. She hasn't heard properly for 67 years.
Jesus.
3, 2, 1. ¿Cómo se siente?
Bien.
Yeah.
¿Del oído bien?
How much different is it?
Mucho.
And we also went to Guatemala, Brazil, and we also helped hundreds of people in South Africa, Malawi, and Indonesia. And I learned while filming this video that providing hearing isn't the only way to connect people. Sign language connects people whether they can hear or not.
But access to learning sign language is still very limited in many places.
Yeah.
So we're going to donate $100,000 to organizations around
Hey,
the world
thank you
that
for
are
the host,
teaching
King
people sign
Snakey.
language.
But aside from that, we still have our final person left to help.
Subscribe.
There you go.
YouTube TV has
Oh, Mr. Beast. You fucking got me, my guy.
Is there a note being passed around?
What?
No, we don't pass notes.
No.
Absolutely
not.
Nope.
Mr. Mulligan.
God.
Actually, when you can read a pair.
Oh.
A
We
note?
didn't get the notes?
Brandon.
Someone wrote it.
I love you.
Okay, fucking narc.
Fucking narc.
Sending the teacher the note.
Most of our notes are just to make you jealous.
Why are you do that?
I truly love. There's always a very funny thing. I just remember being like a boy on the.
Hey,
like,
what's up,
being a boy on the playground
Sonya
seeing
and
like
Billy?
a bunch of girls talking and being like, well, they're not talking about us. They have their own stuff going on, and then they all
Hey,
like,
what's up,
point
homie?
and laugh, and you're like,
2 minutes left in that trigger box, y'all.
it's a real egg on my face moment here. Is there a note being passed around?
No, we don't pass notes.
No, absolutely not.
Nope. Mr. Mulligan.
Mr. Mulligan.
Actually, when you can read a pair.
Oh.
A
We
note?
didn't get the notes?
Brandon.
Someone wrote it.
I love you.
Folks, we have a little segment here on Adventuring Academy where we dig into the hot button issues, the big high stakes, not really high stakes, incredibly low stakes. It's very, very frivolous. But we get into the discussions and debates that are rocking the TTRPG world. This is Contested Role. Here in Contested Role, we take an issue that is rocking the TTRPG world and we hash it out definitively here in the Adventuring Academy. Sam, guaranteed, if there is a position or a debate or a piece of discourse that you want to get into, I guarantee you I will full-heartedly take whatever the opposite position is.
Power gamers, mighty or menace?
Ooh, wow. All right. And delineation, power gamers. We're talking about the classic, the min-maxer, the optimizer, the person that builds the character around the concept of. Great.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And what position do you feel most excited to take in terms of power gamers, helpful or menace?
Power gamers are mighty. Menacingly mighty if we have the right intimidation check, which we do.
So you're coming out pro optimization.
Yes, I have to defend my people.
Wow. Well, let me tell you something. I believe we all remember the classic stories of myth and fantasy and legend. We remember Lord of the Rings, Frodo Baggins, a 10-foot tall, 20 strength Hulk barbarian, unkilled. Or wait, no, that's not what happened. He was a fun little guy with hairy feet who liked to have a bunch of meals in the day. Fantasy thrives on underdogs. And if you are constantly making unkillable contraptions of rules-bending, edge-case demigods, you will never get the feeling of being the little guy triumphing over the forces of evil.
Oh, yes, demigods. That's why Hercules was just 10s in all attributes across the board. That's why there was flavor. There was something notable. I'm sorry, have you never met a specialized person in your life? Have you never met that person who wanted to be a doctor from a very young age, who studied, who really went hard, who min-maxed? Does that not reflect life? Are we only allowing ourselves to have the bland?
What you call the bland, I call the exploration of the intricacies of the unlikely hero. The youngster, secluded on a farm, perhaps a moisture farm, on the far desert planet of Tatooine. If you look at Luke Skywalker's character sheet, you'd see 10s across the board, okay? That's the kind of hero we love. And again, for those that are playing at home, let's talk about the time spent like having to learn and focus and maximize on all those rules. Maybe someone wants to take a starter character sheet and jump into battle as that folksy, charming hero figure we've all come to know and love.
So isn't it great that their fellow player at the table has an expert tank who will protect them from the consequences of their own actions?
Look, all I'm gonna say is this, okay? The game of Dungeons and Dragons is for people of all walks of life, and I think that embracing some of the historical tropes of unlikely heroes and those that have come from a non-adventuring background, not everyone in our world is Sherlock Holmes, not everyone is the Hulk, not everyone is Jean Grey, not everyone is the most super duper maximized person, and maybe the little guy should win one every once in a while.
And that is what I know you for, Brennan. You only tell one type of character. It's why unlikely heroes are what we see across the board exclusively, because what is better than monotony?
And that's contested roll! That's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because I agree with you with every fiber of my being. That was a complete farce. I love optimizing characters so much.
You don't say. What kind of optimizing?
Wait, what? Fortnite in the No shot. No fucking shot.
Here's one thing you need to do before buying anything online. Don't spend another dime on Amazon until you watch this first. Watch this. I can show you how to get the sweetest deals online when you shop from major retailers like Amazon and Target. You can drop prices automatically. I can show you how, but I can't do it for you. People are saving real money doing this. $160 million in the last year.
Would you
Hello, Moist Charlie Clips audience. I bring with me some cringe as a nice little gift for all of you. I've talked about this before, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen this as well. The Olympics have finally accepted some games into their Olympics circuit. They now have an entire esports week of the Olympics, and while that may sound cool to some of you, I promise it is the most embarrassing thing
Hey,
ever.
what's up,
You see, the games
Nazar?
that are in the Olympics are ones that you've never heard of, such as tic-tac-bow and other mobile game shovelware dog shit. Just complete throwaway nonsense games. And I've speculated on stream that I actually think it's kind of a conspiracy because some of the mobile games that are in the Olympics were made only a couple weeks before the announcement. So they're also heavily monetized as well, and anyone can participate. So to me, it really just...
That's ridiculous. Ooh, new clip.
Who are you? Why are you hunting for the key?
Ron Perlman.
Mirage, don't worry. You boys got this. Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Hey, 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 hey! Not so fast!
Hey, over here, kitty kitty.
Stand down! I won't ask a second time.
Nice. Ten rarest weapons you never found. Let's see if I found
The
any of
video
them.
game world is one that's full of weapons. Some that are easy to get and plentiful, and some that are not. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, the 10 rarest weapons in video games. And number 10 is Golden Wrench from Team Fortress 2, one of the rarest weapons on this list.
Well, I
It
never
is
played
also
Team
one of the
Fortress
most
2, so no, I never
Back
got
in 2010,
the
Valve
Golden
released the Engineers
Wrench.
update for TF2, which, among other changes, introduced the Golden Wrench. It functions exactly the same as
Kobe.
the regular wrench, but has the added effect of turning people into gold if you manage to kill them with it. Now, what makes it so rare is that it was basically a promotional tool. Only 100 of them actually dropped for players to craft, and with thousands of people trying to craft this thing at the same time, basically the only way for players to get it was to figure out how the rollout worked and start crafting at the exact moment a designated drop time happened. What makes this whole thing controversial is how some angry players got for missing out. People quickly started accusing anyone who had one to be a cheater, so even people who got them legitimately, which was probably most of them, frankly, would generally try to keep them a secret. Even though 100 of them were released, there aren't nearly as many of them left nowadays. Valve gave out an additional Golden Wrench during a charity stream, bringing the count up to 101, but at least as far as I can tell, players have intentionally destroyed at least 21 of them, and one was actually removed by Valve, so they're even rarer than they were. And number 9 is the Sword of Dorman from the Shadow of the Colossus remake. There's plenty of stuff like the Team Fortress weapon on this list, but for now let's switch over to something that in the grand scheme isn't as rare, but is definitely incredibly hard to get. Added in the PS4 remake of Shadow of the Colossus, the Sword of Dorman is an incredibly difficult piece of equipment to get.
I should play that.
To unlock the weight of this weapon, you have to collect 79 gold coins. They're scattered around the world, and in most games that's not that big of a deal, you know? Like, a collection quest like this wouldn't be a lot to write home about, but in this game, oh, it's an ordeal. First off, the world map is totally massive. There's a ton of empty space, and these coins can be hidden literally anywhere. The developers of the remake got pretty creative with it too, and managed to hide these things in the most unbelievably obscure places. The only thing the game does is give you a total of how many you've found too. So, like, it doesn't mark anything on the
that's
map.
hurt.
It's just up to you to keep track of everything that you've already found. So you pretty much have to use a guide. That's what it really comes down to. And even with a guide, finding all these coins it's tough. It takes a long time.
Yeah, that would have been fucked for the first person.
Now, it is the
to do it.
strongest sword in the game, but I don't know. I don't know that it's worth it for any reason other than saying you got it. Like, I think the main reason to get it is just bragging rights. Its merits as a sword just don't really matter, you know? And number 8 is Excalibur 2 from Final Fantasy IX. Like, Final Fantasy games love hard-to-get weapons. And there's so many, you could easily make an entire list just using examples from this series. But let's focus on this one from Final Fantasy IX. This weapon is infamous. What makes it so hard to get is not just that it's a low drop rate or was only given out in a promotion. It's just that accomplishing what you have to do is super difficult. Kind of like the Shadow Colossus one. To obtain Excalibur 2, apparently the sequel to Excalibur, a weapon that's apparently even better than Excalibur, you gotta reach a room in the final dungeon without exceeding 12 hours of playtime. Keep in mind, this is one of the longer Final Fantasy games, so most players take about 40 hours, give or take, so beating it in just 12, wow, that's a lot faster. That's almost a quarter of the average playtime, a little bit more. Basically, the only way you can do this is cheat a little bit. Game has got a ton of cutscenes, and on the PS1 original, they can't be skipped unless you use a trick and open and close the PlayStation disc to cause the FMV to skip, which was the only way to save that precious time. To put just how difficult this is into perspective, the world record speedrun of the game with no glitches is about 8 hours and 37 minutes.
Jesus
That's the
Christ.
fastest player in the world, so you have to approach that time. Yeah, it's about 3-4 hours longer in terms of your time limit, but still. And number 7 is the Sword of Kings from Earthbound. In general, Earthbound, a pretty forgiving game, you know? Compared to everything else on this list, the drop rate on this weapon, not that bad either. But don't tell that to anyone who's trying to get it. The drop rate on the Sword of Kings is 1 in 128, so 0.8%. It is, gonna take a lot of grinding. There's a few weapons in Earthbound with, like a similar drop rate, but what makes this weapon stand out is it's the only weapon in the game Pooh can equip, literally the only one, and the only way to get it is through random chance fighting enemies in the Stonehenge base. To make matters worse, you can permanently miss it, because once you finish the Stonehenge base, that's it. You never can come back. It's over. That's kind of what makes it so infamous among players. It felt necessary to a lot of people, and it's rare, can only be obtained in a certain area, and that area closes once you're done. In reality, it's hardly necessary to beat it in the game. Earthbound's, like I said, pretty easy for the most part, but missing this thing can make it feel like you're missing out. In terms of rareness, everything else on this list has got this weapon beat, but there's just something about it that makes the actual odds not matter so much. What matters is that it feels
Because the guy's name's
totally
Pooh.
impossible to get, even if it isn't necessarily. And number 6 is the Pendulum of Doom from World of Warcraft.
Pendulum of
We're far from World
Doom.
of Warcraft experts
Legion
here,
of
so the
Doom.
information on this entry is mostly coming from a Reddit post by Poor Owl from about a year ago, chronicling their quest to get this weapon. And suffice to say, it took a while, specifically 3.5 years of dedicated grinding, which is
Goddamn.
nuts for a single weapon. The
Asmund.
Pendulum of Doom is, of course, incredibly strong for its level, but the chances of it dropping are totally minuscule, like 0.06% from one specific enemy type in the Ultimate Dungeon, or 0.02% from a few more. And those are crazy small chances. It took Poor Owl 2,000 runs in retail and 292 in Classic WoW, where it is actually a little easier to find. Apparently, they could have just bought one early on, too, but they wanted the satisfaction of earning one themselves. And after 3.5 years of trying to get just one weapon, I'm gonna say I probably would regret that decision. It's just me. I'm not judging. I'm just saying how I would feel.
This is the modern bourbon experience.
And number 5 is the Dreamcast mag, Phantasy Star Online 1 and 2. It's both in. Calling it a weapon is a little borderline, but it counts. I think at least. In Phantasy Star Online, you can equip these things called mags, which are small creatures that you can feed items to. The weapon part is they have a special photon blast that charges up when they take damage. Kind of a stretch, but it's so weird it's, I think, worth talking about. I mean, it's a Dreamcast that you can equip. To get it, you need a bunch of rare items that are difficult to get on the go.
Dreamcast,
And they only appear during certain holiday events, and that's tough enough, right? But the real rare versions of these things are in the sequel. The only way to get a Dreamcast mag in Phantasy Star Online 2 is either to have gone to a 2015 fan convention that was in Japan, or play the closed Xbox One beta test in 2020. These things are so rare that they might as well not exist. There's at least some video evidence of the Dreamcast mag on YouTube, yes, but this entry's interesting because it's something that's not only incredibly rare, but something not many people actually care about. It goes to show that not everything that's rare is necessarily sought after. And number 4, the Seitengrat bow from Final Fantasy XII. In terms of pure rarity, doesn't get a lot more ridiculous than this bow from Final Fantasy XII. The layers of rareness on this are mind-blowing, so strap in. For one, it's in an invisible chest that only has a 1% chance of appearing on the Sky Ferry. You'd think that would be enough, but no. Even if the chest actually appears, the chances of it actually containing an item, just 20%. That's, of course, not the chances of the bow appearing in the chest, but the chances that an item will be in the chest. To get the bow, you pretty much have to have the diamond armlet equipped, because for whatever reason it raises your chances of finding this thing all the way up to a whopping 5%. So you got a 1% chance of finding a chest that has a 5% chance of having the bow. Also, it's invisible. So really, you've got a 1 in 10,000 chance of getting it, if you hate yourself. If you'd rather not torture yourself, it's possible to exploit the entire time. But the method reads like a fever dream. But hey, that's RNG manipulation for you, isn't it? And number 3 is Death's Web from Diablo 2, which has some pretty ridiculous drop rates on certain items. Probably the most infamous is Tyrell's Might. That's up there with the rarest equipment in the entire game. But we're talking about weapons here. In general, rare weapons are more likely to be found than other pieces of equipment. But you never know from looking at the kind of percentages some of these weapons have. Maybe the worst, at least when it comes to these weapons, is Death's Web. Necromancer wand that has some unique properties, but what really makes it special is just how rare it is. Using the Silo Spend drop calculator for Diablo 2, this weapon can be dropped from a multitude of sources, but the actual chances of seeing it, pretty abysmal. Seriously, the highest number I could find was a shocking 1 in 13 million, or about 0.0000075%, which is insane. And actually, it only gets worse from there. Compare that to the uncommon chances of death, and those are way more likely to happen. The chances of being eaten by a shark, like 1 in 3.7 million. Chances of getting directly hit by a meteor, and we're talking in real life, 1 in 1.9 million. Hell, you got a better chance of being struck by lightning with 1 in 1.2 million. Almost 10 times less likely than legitimately finding a Death's Web. That's probably a little too rare to even have in the game, honestly. Yeah, people get struck by lightning. It's in the news from time to time. But, like, it's technically more newsworthy if somebody gets a Death's Web. And number 2 is the Gold Magnate from EVE Online. Everyone's favorite player-driven economy. Can be pretty fascinating to watch from the outside, but it's got to be pretty stressful to actually play, right? Some of these ships are super expensive and beyond rare. Anything in the Titan class is going to cost a ton of real-world cash to keep running, too. But nothing compares to the Gold Magnate, a special frigate that sold for around $32,500 back in 2020. Like, for one, crazy rare. There's only 2 known to exist in the game currently. The first one was given out as a reward back in 2003 for winning a championship, and that was eventually destroyed by pirates. There were 4, however, given out in 2006. One was destroyed by the owner when they decided to quit the game. Another was caught in a trap and destroyed. And unlike pretty much everything else on this list, there's a real danger to losing these things in the game. Even though they were free rewards technically, there's still a lot to lose considering how much one managed to sell for in 2020. And finally, at number 1, Final Fantasy XI's The Excalibur, which you get from fishing. So here we go. This is a weapon so rare that literally no one has actually managed to get it. The only reason anyone even knows the weapon existed is because a developer talked about it. Basically, when Final Fantasy XI first came out in Japan, they made it so you could randomly fish, and the fishing would let you pull up this incredibly powerful weapon at random. The chances were very low. 1 in 20,000, or 0.005%, and even if they did manage to find one, they wouldn't be able to use it because the weapons level was at 70, and the game had a level cap of 50. And now they've looked at the data, and they've found that literally no person has managed to find this weapon, and it was probably patched out at some point. So it's a rare weapon that literally no one in the world has. Like, maybe a developer or somebody has it in secret, but there's really no way to know unless somebody comes out and admits they've got it, because otherwise it's literally a weapon that is so rare that no one has it. And it kind of sounds like they removed Excalibur from fishing when they added the relic version of the weapon, which was before Final Fantasy XI even came out in the US back in October of 2003. That's probably a major reason it was never found. Nobody knew the weapon even existed, and combining the low discovery rate with the relatively small player base, it just isn't a situation conducive to somebody finding it, you know? Like, maybe there's one or two floating around out there right now, but unless somebody actually comes out and says it, we're just going to assume literally no one ever found it.
Truth or dare? We've always been told to choose.
Games are meant to be big events, and sometimes they just blow
Top
your
10
mind.
holy shit
Hi
moments.
folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, 10 holy shit moments from recent games. Starting off at number 10, Bayonetta 3's Chapter 6 and 12. The Bayonetta games are known for their over-the-top insanity, but this game goes a step beyond in a totally holy shit madness territory. Almost every major boss in the game is so over the top and ridiculous that they'd be the final boss in any normal game, but here they're just another boss. Probably the two that stand out
But here
most
it's
to me
just,
as
you know,
bosses
the
in Chapter 6
huge
and 12.
Bayonetta.
You really just gotta see these to believe them. The first one in Chapter 6 is your normal crazy boss, modeled after the Monkey King from Journey to the West. He's got 3 forms. The first 2 you take on in a normal character action game way, but the third, this is where it gets interesting. For reasons, he becomes supercharged, so Bayonetta responds by ripping out her own heart and sacrificing it to a demon who also gets supercharged. This doesn't kill her. This is these games. You don't have to know why, you just have to accept
Welcome to Bayonetta,
now, for some
bitch.
reason, this demon decides that the best course of action is to fight the boss by blowing bubbles at them. Like I said, you just gotta see it. It's one of the most ridiculous visuals I've ever seen. It's so incredibly goofy that any attempt to be sexy or whatever just completely falls to the wayside. I mean, look at this. What is happening? The boss of Chapter 12, somehow actually more ridiculous than this. And this isn't a mission with an extended thriller parody in the middle of it for just no
No,
reason.
they fucking did it.
Other than to just melt your brain, I guess. So
No
this time
shot.
they
They
take
did
on
not
a
throw
swarm of
Thriller and
mind-controlling insects
Bayonetta.
that seem unstoppable, but wait, you just so happen to have an opera-singing frog demon at your disposal. Of course, let's try that. So that thing gets powered up, you fight the boss, an extended rhythm minigame where the frog demon sings a very Fifth Element song to kill the swarms of bugs. It's one of those things you just gotta see. Totally insane. At number 9, Elden Ring's Elevator. For a
Oh
lot
my
of people,
God.
the most memorable moment from Elden Ring. It's not the only surprising thing to find in the game, obviously, but for a lot of players it's the first, and it's the moment where the game goes from just being an interesting take on an open world formula to something much more interesting in people's minds. I'll try to set the scene. It starts off in Limgrave, like the whole game. That's probably the most normal area of the game. There's a few scattered dungeons, nothing to really write home about, and it sets your expectations kind of low at first. One of the larger sections of the map is
And then
Mistwood.
get
Of course, filled
fucked.
with
Welcome to
root
Elden
bears that can be
Ring.
a fairly dangerous place starting out, but it's a place most new players will probably check out just because it's so close to the starting area. And while you're wandering around the misty forest, you might run into this large round building with an elevator in it. The first time I activated this thing, I assumed it just lead down to some kind of small cave dungeon similar to the other ones I found in the area, but the elevator just keeps going, like deep, deeper, deep.
Deep, deep, deep. Like deep. Balls deep. Still going. Still fucking
You
going.
see these giant aqueducts in the distance and buildings. You realize it's not some little cave, but an entirely new area. It's not just a new location. It's an entire section of the map that's underground. And you never really see stuff like this in open world games. This whole area is enormous, and even better, everything you see in the distance, you can actually go to. It's one of the most intriguing and exciting moments in the game. If they're gonna just make it so you can like randomly uncover an entire underground world, what else are you gonna find just exploring? It's one of the few totally surprising, player-driven moments of the year, and easily one of the best. And number 8 is the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, the Stanley Parable 2. Everyone knew ahead of time this updated version of the Stanley Parable would have some new endings and new secrets in it, but developers tried to make us think that wouldn't be the case, and duh, it was obviously going to happen. That's kind of the point of the game, to have different endings and subvert the expectations, so yeah. I knew there'd be some changes, but I didn't know how far they'd go, or the fact they basically hit an entire Stanley Parable sequel in the game. Like, when you first boot the game up, it seems like everything's the same. It actually takes finding a few of the standard endings before anything new even starts to pop up. The first new thing you find is a door leading to new content, which ends up being pretty pathetic. There's a circle you can jump in. Wow. When the game throws its first big swerve at you and sends you to this hall of memories of the original version of the game, this concludes with a really dark and bizarre ending where you're trapped in a tiny room with the narrator with only a fast forward button that eventually leaves you trapped in a desolate apocalyptic world. Then the game starts all over again just like normal, but now the new content door leads you to the Stanley Parable 2, a gigantic new area filled with stuff. Things get stranger from there, including a bucket that you can take with you that changes all the old endings in the game into something completely different for some reason. Also, the title screen has a story too, like the game's bizarre. And number 7 is it's the Cuphead DLC, The Secret Boss. Like, you know, for a game called Cuphead with this traditional cartoon look, the Delicious Last Course DLC came out this year, added some fantastic bosses to an already great game. But the most surprising thing, especially if you manage to find it yourself, is the secret boss. It's not one of those things that's impossible to find normally, but it's something that, like, you'll find it on your own. All you have to do is solve this simple puzzle on these tombstones. The contest winners all give you randomized clues, but you just need to touch the 3 tombstones in the correct order, which is slightly trickier than it seems, but it's certainly not impossible. You solve the puzzle, the center tombstone lights up, and you get the option of taking a nap. Things start getting creepy right from the loading screen as the normally happy hourglass is shattered and all the sand guts are spilling out of its glass body.
God
when
damn.
the loading finishes, it's when you take on this thing known as the Angel and the Devil. There's this creepy music, and this bizarre stop-motion rabbit skeleton looms over you, and the fight starts. Like most people are going to die in seconds when you're first fighting this thing because of its cross-eyed gimmick and the devil and angel switch places whenever you turn. So any projectiles fired by the devil hurt you while any projectiles from the angel are harmless. Like, it's a simple enough gimmick, but actually adjusting to it's pretty difficult to say the least. The regular game didn't have any secret bosses, so this thing was pretty unexpected. If its weird appearance didn't make you say, holy shit, the brutal attack patterns are definitely gone. And number 6, Gotham Knight's final boss. Like, regardless of your opinion of the game, the final boss goes pretty hard. Like, it's a pretty interesting and ballsy fight. The final area of the game leads into a Lazarus pit under Gotham where Talia has revived Batman. Final Fantasy. Did it make the... And number 5,
I skipped that. I still haven't beat that. I kind of expected that's where they were going, but I was.
Like, if you thought Last of Us Part 2 was a downer of a game, you have not seen anything yet. This is a direct continuation of A Plague Tale: Innocence. It starts off dark, and it only gets worse and worse for poor Amicia and Hugo. All you really need to know for this entry is the 2 main characters are siblings, and the little guy, Hugo, is kind of a magical conduit for a rat plague. He is a rat boy. He can control the rats. By the end of the game, that power goes completely out of control, and Hugo turns an entire city into a hellish wasteland of rats. This final section of the game turns into a literal abstract nightmare with actual tidal waves of rats, for lack of a better description. Like, I'm not so sure that it has anything to do with the tide, but that's what that looks like, right? Anyway, they consume pretty much everything in their path, and you pretty much have to desperately hide from it. It sounds crazy enough, but the visuals are really what sell the whole thing. For the most part, this series is set in mostly down-to-earth environments, but at the end it goes pretty abstract, I guess, and it's actually fairly disturbing. The entire ending sequence is pretty shocking in its own right, but it's less of a holy shit thing and more kind of an incredible bummer. When I think holy shit, I think spectacle, and this run-up to the climax, it's easily the most spectacular thing in A Plague Tale: Requiem, but it's not going to make you feel good. At number 4 is Signalis Begin Again, taking inspiration from 90s anime like Neon Genesis Evangelion and also Silent Hill. Kinda no wonder Signalis ended up one of the weirdest games of 2022. Most of this game is going to leave you too confused to really be shouting holy shit, but there is one moment that it got me hard. Like, it seems like this game is running up to the climax. You solve the final puzzle in this bizarre meat-filled otherworld. You open the door to what seems like the final destination, and then what seems like the final cutscene plays. It's a kind of unsatisfying conclusion, but it's an indie game. That kind of comes with the territory. But after the short credits end, it takes you back to the main screen, and a lot of people probably shut the game off right then, but it's not the ending. There's a lot left to do. If you hit begin, the game starts over, but the events that play out are completely different. It seems like some kind of new game plus is actually just the rest of the game. From here you go into the real final area and take on the real final boss, and that's when you get the for real this time ending. It's just as confusing, but at least there's a boss, and it seems a little more satisfying, I guess. It's kind of a nasty trick to pull on people, and I bet there's more than a few folks out there that actually fell for it and had no idea that the first ending wasn't the ending. But damn, if it is not a holy shit moment when you start a game over and you find out that you got a lot of game to go. And number 3 is High on Life, the secret of the human haven. So, High on Life, a pretty goofy game. Definitely worth a play. I enjoyed it. Watch my before you buy for my full opinion on it. But the plot is mostly an excuse for jokes. And it's, like, what I'm saying is it's far from serious. It's a fun game. It does its humor well. Sometimes doesn't know when to stop, but for the most part, it's enjoyable. But there's a point where it's actually really weirdly serious. The story of the game is that there's this alien cartel that's invaded Earth and is now using humans for drugs, like literally smoking them like a joint somehow. And at a certain point in the story, you're given a device that makes it so you can rescue any captured humans you find and teleport them to a human haven. The guy who gives it to you, Magistrate Klug, seems pretty straightforwardly nice, which immediately stands out in a game where everybody's insane or insanely rude, but it's not really a story game, so you just go along with it. There's a funny thing, though. When you summon a portal to rescue a human, you can actually go through the portal to the human haven. And if you platform up to the top, there's a mysterious locked door. So you go back to Klug's office after beating the game, and you can find a key card on his desk, which opens the door and reveals a bunch of secret rooms filled with dead humans that have been experimented on. Now, what's shocking about this is that it's presented mostly serious, with a pretty seriously creepy atmosphere. At the end of the lab, the true bad guy the game's revealed, this creepy-looking scientist who also is not played for laughs at all, he just comes off as evil. He kills Klug right in front of you, and then he teleports away as a setup for the sequel. This moment is a double whammy. The secret ending is in a goofy cartoon FPS, and it's surprisingly dark and sinister. Oh, also, the final boss teleports Jack Black and Susan Sarandon for a cameo and immediately kills them, which is also pretty holy shit worthy. And number 2 is Tunic, The Patterns. Tunic is a game made up of holy shit moments. When you first boot it up, you really don't have any idea what's going on. It's set up like a standard Legend of Zelda style adventure, but the game goes in a way where it slowly reveals previously mundane parts of the environment have a lot more going on with them. The game doesn't tell you anything, and it doesn't make the basic gameplay elements even clear, so discovering that you can do something as simple as sprint and level up your character kind of feel like a holy shit moment, because you can play this game for hours without realizing either of those things are even possible. Now, the game doesn't block your progress by just making you find items. Instead, your progress is tied to your knowledge, like how much you've managed to figure out about the world. Learning how wells work, or that you can pray to make things happen, are game changers, but the biggest holy shit revelation is realizing the secret of the patterns. All over this game, you can see doors and background objects with these lines on them. Now, in most games, this would just be meaningless details, but they're essential in this game because a lot of secrets are hidden behind these patterns. They're not just details, they're codes telling you what to do. To activate these things, you need to input directions on your control to match the direction of the pattern. There's no specific place to do it, just as long as you're on the screen and you press the right directions, it works. It's genuinely mind-blowing when you finally figure it out, because it opens up the rest of the game so much, and you start seeing the patterns everywhere. It's an all-around brilliant game with some of the most satisfying eureka moments of the past few years. And finally, at number 1, God of War Ragnarok, the character switch. Had to put this in somewhere, right? The whole gimmick of the rebooted God of War series is that it's single camera following Kratos. For the entire first game, it sticks to the script, and it doesn't deviate from him. It's a full constant. So when the camera suddenly wanders away from Big Man out of nowhere, it's kind of huge. Like, suddenly you're playing as Atreus, doing his own thing completely separate from Kratos. The God of War games have never had another playable character. Not since the first game out back in 2005. That's 20 years with Kratos as the playable character, and then out of nowhere, you're playing his son. The funny thing is, it's intentionally jarring. Like, it doesn't happen after Kratos gets injured or anything, it just happens. And then we find out that Atreus has his own story going on the entire time. Now, there is some controversy. Some people aren't crazy about the amount of time you spend in Ragnarok as the Boy of War, but that first switchover is pretty damn surprising. And a quick bonus for you, the real #1 of the year. We gotta talk about this. It's probably the most insane plot twist of 2022. It's Spark the Electric Jester 3. So, little background. Spark the Electric Jester is Sonic the Hedgehog, but he is not blue, he's yellow. He mixed in a little Kirby, a little Mega Man X, put it on top of Sonic Adventure, but made much, much less janky. And you pretty much have Spark the Electric Jester, 3 at least. 1 was 2D, 2 was 3D, but I would say that 3 is really the good 3D one. Not that 2 is bad, but I digress. There's barely a story here until the very end. You travel down in this underground bunker, which contains an entire city. As you go, these weird glitches start appearing everywhere, which is odd, but whatever. Then you get to the final boss, who reveals the absolutely bonkers twist. You've already failed your mission, and some evil computer has wiped out all of humanity. You, this weird little yellow cartoon man, you're dead. This is just a Matrix-style simulation. In reality, everything's destroyed, and you've been replaying your failure for 1,000 years in an underground bunker the whole time. The whole thing is completely nuts. And there's so much more, like how the guy you're hunting was actually the hero, and you're kind of responsible for the destruction of mankind. Like you, a little yellow dude who runs fast. It's melodramatic to the extreme in a game where, seriously, there really wasn't any story up to this point. It was 100% go through levels, beat the bad guy. Like, that's the game up till this moment. It's pretty ambitious for an indie game. I gotta give you that. And I don't know if I was laughing because of how ridiculous it is, or because it's so uncomfortable that they did this. I don't know. It's like an I have no mouth, but I must scream level of grim in a game that looks like this. This is what it looks like. Highly recommend this game. Would play it again. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, have a great time to do.
I'm tired as hell.